Hello, and welcome to the fourth episode of Hello, It's Better to Talk. In this week's episode, I'm going to be going back to 1991 when I met Princess Diana, goddess Princess Diana, and what she told me in a way about preparation and when to reveal your secret. Hello, my name's Helen Garlick. For 35 years, I was a family lawyer and mediator, but I kept secret what was happening in my own family of origin. Now I know it's time to talk about it. So I'd like to warmly welcome you to Hello, It's Better to Talk. Okay, so this is a photo of me and Princess Diana, proof that I met her back in 1991. And what had happened in that year, so this is 10 years on from my brother's death. I was married by that time and I had my first baby. I was longing to have children, and I'd had my first daughter, Unity, who was born on Christmas Eve, on her Auntie Jackie's 40th birthday. She arrived at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. So it was Christmas Eve, but this child is here to work in life. However, so I was not only being a mum, I was also the chair of a charity called National Council for One-Parent Families, and we were doing this massive glitzy event with Barnardos, of whom Princess Diana is the patron, was the patron. We were actually doing an opera at the Coliseum with Bryn Terfel singing the part of the Barber of Seville, so it was huge, and we managed to get a lot of fundraising for this event. Now, I was a new mum, put on a bit of weight during the pregnancy, it has to be said, and decided that the best thing to do was to get a jacket. So I had this wonderful 80s jacket to meet Princess Diana, big power shoulders, bright pink, covers up a multitude of sins. And before the event, I just gave my baby a last cuddle before saying goodbye to her, and squeezed her probably too tightly, and she gave me a little present on the shoulder. So I cleaned it up as best I could, but for that evening I knew that when I was meeting Princess Diana, if you turned your head to the right, there was a little smell of baby sick. Anyway, there we go. So the opera went really well, and I got to meet her in the intermission, and like everybody else, I mean, I didn't actually think she would want to meet me because there were so many glamorous people there. So I was astonished that she'd want to meet me. But anyway, I got ushered towards her, and then she's just radiant, golden. And she said, "Oh, isn't it so nice to get up off your backside when you've been watching the opera?" And I thought, "Oh my, a princess has said backside. What?" Anyway, so she was amazing. She was prepared. She knew where I lived. She knew that I had a baby. We talked a little bit about babies and motherhood. And she was very interested that night in finding out what might happen to sons particularly on divorce. Now, this was back in 1991, a good year, more than a year before she and Charles separated. But it felt really plain to me that was what she was thinking about, but she was thinking very much from the role of a mother, how to protect her sons in the event of a divorce. Which really kind of taught me something, because I think that when you are holding something in your heart, which is a big secret, you know that something impending is going to happen. There's this kind of tendency to do something like a blurt about it, so to kind of blurt it out. I suppose in her case it might be I need to leave Prince Charles, but she was preparing very carefully, I think, as carefully as she could for what would be a terrible situation for her, and she was also keeping that secret in her heart whilst preparing the way for what was going to be happening for her in the future. So in a way that stayed with me. I mean, the meeting stayed with me. Why would it not? She was the most extraordinary woman. If there is anybody who has taught us about talking and about communication and about heartfelt communication, that is Princess Diana. She was the most extraordinary being, and I was incredibly lucky to have met her. And this was 10 years after what had happened to my brother, when I was still keeping that very much in my heart, because I knew that whilst I had to tell this story, I couldn't tell that story, in fact, until after both my parents had died. I didn't know how long that would be, but as we were going through our lives, they moved to London so they could be nearer me and my husband and our baby. And my mother used to look after my daughter 2 days a week. She was a devoted grandmother, as my father was a devoted grandfather. They had a very different experience. My children had a very different experience with my parents than I had had. My parents just loved and relished their role as grandparents. We could never talk, however, about what had happened to David. It was something that was just a subject that everybody walked around. I mean, my father would talk about a version of his life with David, our lives together as a family, which became more and more distant from what I remembered as a child. My mother became withdrawn a lot of the time and would look at the floor, would just not engage about it. It was a very much an untalked about subject. And bizarrely, that was one of the things that motivated me to go into family law and to go into mediation and then later collaborative law and encourage talking about problems. So in my professional life, I was out there training people, working with couples, helping them to talk through very, very painful situations and come out with a resolution that was going to work as well as it could for them and with the best interests of their children in mind. I was writing books about divorce. I wrote 6 editions of The Witch Guide to Divorce. I was a kind of expert. Sometimes I'd be on telly or radio about talking solutions. And yet, within my own family, within my heart, there was something that I really could not talk about until after both of my parents had died. My father died in 2014, and I was lucky enough to be there with him when he died, and we'll be talking about that in a later episode. And my mother died in 2017. And then we found out that she had also been keeping a secret, and it was a secret that she took to her grave. She never spoke about it in her life, but we found out about it, and that was the most unexpected secret of all. And in next week's episode, we'll be talking about what my mother revealed and the secret that she took to her grave. So I look forward to seeing you on Wednesday at 12 noon for the next episode of Hello, It's Better to Talk. And in the meantime, lots of love and light.